Welcome to Human Trafficking Awareness, Identifying the Unseen. My name is Heidi Chance. I'm a human trafficking investigator with over 16 years of experience, both with Phoenix Police Department, and I'm an active law enforcement investigator for the Attorney General's Office. I'm also featured in a documentary called Sex Trafficking in America, which is a really good depiction of what sex trafficking looks like domestically here in the United States. I am now an author as well, with my business that I created, A Chance for Awareness, and my book is called Talk to Them, because I kept running into the issue when I'm spreading awareness about human trafficking that parents in the audience are wondering how to have these difficult conversations when I tell them that they need to have these conversations with their children younger than they think. And so I wrote the how-to guide, Talk to Them, on how to have these difficult conversations. Well, let's begin with today's presentation on identifying the unseen. As far as starting with this entire situation of human trafficking, we need to clear up some myths and things that are going on, people's misconceptions of what human trafficking is. It is different from human smuggling. Human smuggling involves a crime against the border or the state, whereas human trafficking involves a crime against a person, and that crime consists of either forced sex or forced labor. And in that, we would have to prove the crime, force, fraud, or coercion was occurring. And force and fraud and coercion are the elements that we would have to show happen to establish that a person's a victim of human trafficking. However, anyone under the age of 18 is automatically a victim. My motive for sharing awareness is to put out there to as many members of the public as possible about this crime and the ins and outs of what human trafficking is. These cases are really hard to investigate. I'm not going to have a witness typically that saw someone go have sex with somebody, make money, and then turn that money over to their trafficker. And so these cases are very difficult. We have to use corroborative evidence, DNA, cell phones, hotel receipts, video footage, other witnesses, those kind of corroborative evidence type of things to give more weight to what the victim's describing happened versus what the suspect says happened. These cases definitely also involve different people's perceptions of human trafficking, society's view of it, the underground crime that no one talks about and no one thinks is happening in our backyard and in our community, but it is right here in the communities where we live. And then law enforcement's view of this issue. Back in 1998, I didn't have a class on human trafficking in the police academy. In fact, there are very few law enforcement agencies that make that a mandated class. And so the police aren't even seeing this trafficking situation happening right under their noses on the calls that they respond to for service. And then we have an issue of victims not seeing themselves as victims. They don't even realize that they're being exploited. And people's perception of what a victim is. People think that a victim has to be someone that's poor or transient or down on their luck, and really a victim could be anyone, male, female, of any race, any socioeconomic demographic. It really could be anyone. So my motive for my awareness presentation and to get on as many platforms as I can is I want informed juries. Because if I'm going to go testify as an expert witness in a trial and I'm describing a victim, who I'm calling a victim, a person, and testifying that they're freely walking down the side of the road with a phone in their hand, I'm calling them a victim and I'm saying that they're trapped. I need a jury to wrap their head around the fact that this victim is not free to leave and they are trapped. And then we definitely have an issue of people that we put in prison and jail over human trafficking, getting right back out and going right back to trafficking other people. What we really need to go over today in this class, however, are the indicators so that you can recognize this issue happening with someone you may know. Observing any signs of physical abuse or injury. Physical sign of abuse is going to be something that's in your face and you're going to be able to see it. It's bruising, it's scars, marks, broken bones, those kind of things. Bruises, we know that they change color. They go from dark brown, purple, and they fade over time as they heal to a yellow, green color, and then they disappear. So if you see someone with brown, dark brown bruises, purple bruises, and yellow bruises, then you know that that person's been through two different situations of an assault. Lack of eye contact, that's actually an indicator, because in this lifestyle, an individual who's being exploited will get in trouble for looking at someone in the eyes. So it isn't that they're being deceptive necessarily if they're not looking at you in the eyes, but it is part of the trafficking situation where they might be under the control of someone who would punish them for that. Victims appear to shrink when you mention or they overhear someone talking about involving law enforcement. That should be an indicator that maybe we should call law enforcement because this person doesn't really want us to involve them. Of course, you're going to respect their privacy and, you're going to, try and encourage them to talk to law enforcement, but it may be a situation where you, out of the, goodness of your heart, need to involve law enforcement and have law enforcement involved with whatever situation's going on to help this person get out of the situation they're in. Lack of knowledge about where they are or details about where they've been, what they've been doing. If it's a runaway juvenile, I mean, that's especially important to find out where they've been. What have they been doing? Tattoos. If you've heard of branding in the lifestyle of human trafficking, where traffickers will brand their victims, just like we're all watching the Duttons on Yellowstone, the TV show, the Duttons will brand their cows with the Y because they are showing ownership of the cows that they own. Traffickers, in a similar fashion, will brand their victims with the same or similar tattoo. It could be a moniker name, it could be a symbol. But if you're standing in line at the store and you've got 3 people in front of you and they're all dressed to attract and it's in the middle of the night and they all have tattoos, the same tattoos, but they look like they're not related, that would be like a ding ding, bingo, Yahtzee, blackjack, whatever game you play, an indicator that you are on the money with your assumption that they might be involved in trafficking. They don't possess their own identification, or they're not holding their own property, or someone else is holding their phone. Anytime that someone's not, I mean, you, a normal person, wouldn't let someone else walk around with your ID and your phone. That's just not normal. So that is definitely an indicator. Let's see here, unable to provide explanations to simple answers, or they're not answering questions that you're asking them, someone else is answering for them. That's what law enforcement, why we pull people out of the cars, why we separate people, because we don't want the information to be, nothing but the truth, obviously. So we're trying to get to the bottom of what happened, and so we separate people. So if I'm asking you a question and someone else is answering for you, that's going to bother me as a law enforcement officer, but it also should bother you as a person who's trying to get to the bottom of what's going on with this person you're trying to help. Hotel keys, multiple hotel keys, working at night. The reference to the word working is also an indicator as far as the terminology. I have a resource at the end that is a glossary of terms, so to speak, of the terminology used in the trafficking space. And it is a great resource for you if you are involved in human trafficking in any way. And even just overhearing someone speak some of these terms could be an indicator for you that a trafficking situation might be going on with this person. Older boyfriend, running away. If it's a juvenile and they've run away and they've been recovered, but they were recovered in a known area for prostitution. There are in big cities, street prostitution still happening to this day, and there are known areas for prostitution called the track or the blade. Again, another term. And if they were recovered on the blade when they were found, that's a very concerning situation of why they were in that area and what they were doing in that area. A discrepancy in age. If they tell you they're 23, but you're looking at their baby face and they look 15, that could be an indicator that there's, a reason why they're lying. Fractures, malnourishment. I have a full over 2.5 hour class on my website that I'll talk about at the end that goes into more detail about this class. And malnourishment is a part of the control that traffickers use. Traffickers will have victims out on the streets and they have to make a certain amount of money called a quota before they can come back to the hotel room to shower, to rest, to sit down. And certainly they're not allowed to take money from the money the trafficker is supposed to be getting to eat anything. They have to ask permission to eat. And so these victims are sometimes only eating 1 meal a day if they're allowed to eat at all. So malnourishment and poor diet is very much part of this lifestyle. More terminology for you, the word daddy, that's intentional. They're using the word daddy on purpose because daddy is an authority figure in the person's life. They're replacing that of person. You can see the other terms later. Multiple cell phones, especially if it's a kid, where does this phone come from? As far as reporting, I'm sure you're aware of the National Human Trafficking Hotline. If you visited any airport recently, there's stickers and posters everywhere, but there are some states that also have a hotline. And so I've listed those here for you. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close. If you would like that resource, the terminology is here. If you scan the QR code and answer a couple of questions about the presentation, and I would be happy to send that your way through email. And here's my contact information. Again, my book is called Talk to Them. I have other classes available, a situational awareness class, a digital literacy for parents to learn about online safety, and I do have a newsletter for monthly information about human trafficking happening in our community. So I thank you so much, and I appreciate your time, and we'll see you on the next one.